Hello everyone, XV here from youtube.com/XVRogueGaming, back with another guide for Dotacinema. Last week we covered the basic beginner's guide to the bottom lane as Radiant. This week we'll be looking at the same lane but as Dire. Remember that this guide is designed for introductory to intermediate learning. The advanced version will appear on my channel Monday for those of you who really want to dig deep. The Dire share this ward with the Radiant for all the same reasons. It sees the rune, and also has clear vision behind the trees to keep an eye out for ganks. But as Dire, when looking at the bottom lane, wards take on a whole new meaning. Not just for watching the rune for ganks, they are also used to block neutrals. While it's commonly believed that having vision of a camp will prevent it from spawning neutrals, that's not the case. Instead, each camp has a unique area around it that it checks on the minute mark. If any unit, including wards, are within these borders, nothing will spawn. Blocking camps is a very important aspect of play, as it denies your opponent both experience and, more importantly, control over the creep equilibrium. The subtle beauty of Dota 2 is that each camp has a different sized check area, and that each one's borders are defined by objects and scenery in the game itself. The pull camp is typically the most important to block, and conveniently, it also has the largest block box. The key places to plant wards are here or here. I see a lot of players put one down here, but while it may get the job done, it's also easy to de-ward. Both this and this ward remain out of sight, even when a sentry is planted, just because they're behind the trees. Another quality ward is here. Just in range to block the camp, it also watches the rune while remaining out of sight for most sentry placements because of the treeline cover. Unfortunately, it doesn't see behind the trees next to lane. Next up, the hard camp is blocked by a ward placed here. While somewhat easier to de-ward, as your observer isn't hidden at all, it keeps an eye on the rune and the jungle entrance and can typically go a fair while without being spotted, as everyone will assume that you've put your ward here. Referred to as the magic bush, this ward will also block the pull camp, giving you a 2-for-1. Soloing is difficult in any lane, especially when facing off against 2 or more heroes. For Dire, this is a very common lane to end up being soloed, typically due to a jungler, but also if top is being trioed. Here, you're very far from allies, typically won't get much uptime on the courier, and have only one motivation: survive. Your goal is to stay within experience range while being harassed as little as possible. You'll want to take last hits when you can, but not at the cost of taking much damage, so that you can both stay in lane as long as possible and also make yourself a less tempting gank target. For this reason, ranged heroes seem like the obvious choice to solo this lane, but anyone with a solid escape mechanism and consistent way to get last hits will often do fine. Provided you don't die, you're doing a good job. Yes, your gold is going to fall behind, but unless facing off against another solo hero, you'll rapidly exceed your enemies in experience. To make sure they don't even out this difference through pulling, when you notice your waves suddenly charge forward, you'll need to shift into the jungle briefly. Typically, the Radiant hero who remains in lane will pull your creep wave past the tower, so instead, disrupt the pull and steal a last hit or two. Just don't linger too long, as you're in a pretty dangerous spot. Duoing really changes the dynamic of this lane a lot. No longer about survival, the goal of the lane becomes trying to disrupt the Radiant carry's farm. Denying your creeps is a higher priority than taking last hits, and any opportunity you get should be funneling damage into the Radiant heroes. You can also more effectively punish them should they try to pull. With 2 heroes, it's easy to slip into the jungle and gank the isolated support while their carry focuses on creeps in lane. Just don't overextend and chase a fleeing Radiant into the lane behind the tower. Instead, help yourself to the neutral and Radiant creep gold, unless you are confident that you can not only chase, but kill and get back out unscathed. Aggressive tri-laning is not often seen, but it is viable. Like Radiant, you're going to want to orchestrate and deliver as many hero kills as possible, focusing primarily on their carry. This tri-lane can also afford to send 2 of their team into the woods to pick off jungling heroes unexpectedly, or even shift to middle for surprise ganks. Like before, be sure to chain your stuns instead of stacking them, and you'll get easy kills and easy gold. So while there is more to be said about the bottom lane as Dire, that's it for the basic version, and I hope that you found this video useful for taking your game to the next level. On my channel Monday in the advanced guide, I'll be covering when to solo, when to duo, and when to tri-lane, as well as Dire specific strategies for lane cutting. As before, it's you who decide the topics I'll cover, so be sure to post in the comments below. As always, if you like this video, please thumbs up, share, and subscribe to Dotacinema and my channel to stay up to date. Until next week, this is XV, signing out.